Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry, Speakers Magazine show. So we're going to be talking from our September issue with Krystal Vernee. Yes, we're going to be talking with Krystal. She is a serial entrepreneur, a powerhouse brand strategist, and business coach, and all the things that you probably want to know a little bit more. If you read about her in the magazine, now we're going to do a deep dive about who she really is. Who is this lady? So we're going to bring her up right after this. She has a little interesting thing about herself. How are you, Krystal? Krystal
I'm
Vernee.
well. Thank you for having me, Dr. Pam.
Good, good. So, first of all, serial entrepreneur, what does that mean? So, a lot of people's like, does she eat cereal, or is it cereal like she's always changing every 2 or 3 years? What's going on? What is a serial entrepreneur, and how long have you been having that entrepreneurial bug? I guess you would say.
Oh, that's a great question. So, a serial entrepreneur for me is someone that has multiple streams of income and multiple businesses. So that's that's what I have. I
I
have
love it.
actually 5 businesses right now,
Wow.
all running.
Okay,
Yeah,
so name all the 5 because I know that I want people to really know they're under you, under Krystal Vernee, there's a brand and there's 5 businesses under there. So one
hmm
of the things I always tell people, speakers all the time, especially is like focus, focus, focus. So name all your 5 and then tell me how they connect to one another or how they started.
Okay, so Krystal Vernee is the overarching brand. That's me, and
Mhm.
that is the business. And I have Divas and Dolls Fitness,
Mhm.
and then I have Cirque Sensual, and I have Simply She, and I have another business called CEO Grow. So
Okay.
those are the 5 that I have.
Now, do they
I-
target all obviously the she, do they target all women and women business owners or women of a particular age or demographic, or are they
yeah,
all just women? Okay.
so all of them connect because I focus on women empowerment. So whether that be through entrepreneurship or entrepreneur excellence, or through fitness and dance, so all of them have that aspect of empowering women.
I love that. I love that. So all of them, then the dance, let's get into the dance. Like dance like Zumba dance or dance like hip hop dance? What kind of dance are we talking about?
Well, we do have Zumba. That is one of our classes, but it is a pole and sensual dance studio. So Divas and Dolls Fitness is focused on pole and sensual dance. So that's pole dancing, chair dancing, lap
Mhm.
dance, twerk, floor work. um,
Oh
we
my
do,
God.
yes, we do have some regular fitness classes. So we do have like Zumba, dance, cardio, mixed fit, yoga. So we do also do traditional fitness classes as well. And then the sister brand to that, Cirque Sensual, focuses exclusively on aerial arts. So think Circus Olay, Lyra,
Oh,
silks,
yeah.
pole silks, acro chair. Yeah. hmm
Okay. Now, this when you speak, when you're going out and you're speaking and things like that, how did how did you go from doing well, the fitness field or the fitness industry is just large in
hmm
itself, but the dance. Are you yourself a dancer, trained dancer, or is it something you enjoyed? Did you have a weight loss journey and it was like this is a thing that made me lose weight and I just want other women to experience it? How did it what's the genesis of it?
How did it evolve? Yes, that's a great question. So I've been in the entrepreneurial space since the age of 16 in some capacity or
Okay.
another. My first venture was actually an eBay store. So I started in e-commerce and my degree is in engineering. So it's not related to any of the things that I'm doing right now. Well, kind of sort of not, there's aspects of it there. Um, and I just knew that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and dance is something that I enjoy. Movement is something that I enjoy. And I did actually experience a personal weight loss journey. Lost over 60 pounds pole dancing.
That's a lot. That's like for an average woman, that could be 6 sizes.
Yeah, so it was quite a bit. And I realized it was like the best workout I had in my life. And it's also the longest, I guess, movement that I've stuck to ever. Like when you think about
Mhm.
the gym, like I've
Yeah.
stuck with this, excuse me,
Mhm.
for over a decade now.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So that is that. So that's what you call really melding a passion with a business. You know, a lot of
Yes.
people say, well, you should go into business because, this is where you'll make the money. But it was something that you enjoyed that you knew that worked. So what type of engineer were you? Because you said, oh, that really kind of, I mean, engineers have a different brain.
Yeah.
They think methodical, and most businesses fail because they don't have systems. But I
Hmm.
think all the entrepreneurs and speakers that I work with, if they've ever been in that engineering field, they are very successful long long term because they built systems. And it's not the ideas and it's not really like the marketing, the things that will make because you could be good at marketing but just have terrible systems. So
Yeah.
you're always gonna have to like reinvent. So what type of engineer were you?
It's funny you say systems. So I was operations, research, and industrial engineering, which is systems and processes and
There you
scheduling,
go. Oh
logistics.
my God.
So, so you
That's
hit
it.
the nail on the head, actually.
Yes, that's it. And that's why it's easy for you to start a business, keep it going, and then go and start another one, keep it going, because you have 5, but
Yeah,
if they all have systems, you're not actually in it having to work it because the systems are doing the work for you. I
right,
love that. I love that. So now
exactly.
there's one part that you do. So as a business strategist, and
Hmm.
then also as a business coach and a brand strategist. Am I getting that correct? Is it?
Yes, you're right. Yep.
Oh, okay. So where did that come in? Because now you're running the business, you've got the dance thing, you've got the uh the 2 dance studios, I guess you would say, or not studios, but
Hmm.
the classes and women empowerment. So where did it come into the part where you're helping people with branding? Because industrial engineer, uh, where did that part come from? Like that what do I call it, that right brain part of you come in.
Yeah. So I think, and I wouldn't have ever uh, like describe myself as creative, but the more and more that I got into the online space, like even with the pole dance, I was like, I'm not really that creative. The more and more that I got into space, the more I realized that I actually was pretty creative and I had a nice balance of right and left brain. Um, for me, getting into business coaching and brand strategy came after I went through something personal. I went through a divorce. And within that, I felt that I had lost myself and I had lost my voice, especially as a woman and a business owner, because unfortunately, and I know a lot of other women and men experience this where their partner is not supportive of what they're doing. And so that was kind of what was happening on a daily basis. And I experienced that for years, and that, I wasn't going to be successful. He didn't want me to be successful. There were elements of sabotage throughout the
Mm.
time that we were together.
And
And
you
so,
you would you would say that that's interesting you would say that because I was just thinking about, Mary J. Blige. After
mhm,
many, many years, she got divorced, and one of the things that she said was the thing that husband didn't really want her to be successful. And
yeah,
obviously, Mary J. was very successful, but it was like almost a jealousy in a way. It's insecurity on their part or whatever, but that's a whole nother thing. So I can see why women empowerment is part of your passion as well, because
yeah,
it takes courage to really figure out what's best for you and to really make that break. So I applaud that. That in itself is a topic that probably you could speak on all the time,
yeah,
because so many women are caught in that trap.
yeah,
And empowering women to really listen to their heart, move forward in what's important for them, and to really bloom once you leave, right? So,
yeah,
people used to break away and then kind of like just, go into a hole, but you then open up 5 different businesses, and they're all successful. So yeah, so that's good. So I always say that, out of pain is purpose.
yes,
Uh we wouldn't choose it, but it chose us and it just kind of
yeah,
made us the the speaker that you are today in terms of when your story in terms of inspiring others. So go on.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, transitioning to the business coach role was more so I didn't want anybody else to experience what I experienced. And most importantly, I wanted women to know that they're not alone and
Mm,
that they can do it. Like, you can
mm,
do it, you can be successful. Here's how, here's the blueprint. Like,
mhm.
follow my footsteps. I've done it and there's no need to be alone, no need to struggle. And if someone's telling you that you can't do it, find the people who are telling you that you can.
Yeah. I like the fact that you said, "Here's a blueprint," right? That engineer degree does not go unused, right? Like, "Here's a blueprint." It's like, okay," because people need to know the sequence of how to do things. Even when I'm working with clients in terms of PR and branding and things like that, there's a sequence of doing things. You
Mhm.
can't just jump out here and, like, "Imma do this first and do that." It'll be a mess. So
Right.
that's really, really the main thing. So tell us the type of experiences, I guess you say, or topics that you speak on that you find are the most impactful to the audiences, or where are you mostly speaking at, and then the type of women that are attracted to you in terms of the business coaching and mentoring. I guess you say business mentoring and branding and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I normally speak at a women empowerment conference or a business type of a conference targeted at entrepreneurs. And I do have some male clients as well.
Yeah,
People find most, yeah,
there's
most
always there's
impactful.
always a few that come in there, that we call them the smart ones that come
Yeah,
through.
a few good men. They
Yeah,
they raise their hand,
yeah.
right? Um, so I think people find lead generation, evergreen lead generation, the most impactful, as well as multiple income streams. So those are the two things I
Ah,
mainly teach on, along with government contracting. So I usually stay in those areas. I was a government contractor for over 12 years.
oh,
So
yeah.
I do have that expertise in helping small businesses learn how to do business with the government and win the proposals that they write.
So, the government contract, and you were in there for 12 years. Have you
Mhm.
ever put in a government contract for any of the dance part of the
Actually, so I have. I did. Well, I was. It wasn't for pole dancing. It was for
okay. Like,
to.
let's get the IRS people in here to do the pole dancing.
It was to operate a gym, to be the operator of like a gym in their fitness center. So
Oh,
I did do a contract on that because it's pretty much the same thing.
yeah. Mhm.
It's just a different type of fitness. So I did do that one time, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just focus on my own, like building my own thing. And
Yes.
now that I'm in this industry, I can submit proposals on like marketing or project management or more logistics based projects.
I love that, I love that. So really lead gen and multiple streams of income.
Yes.
So let's talk about your when you left, your position and that sort of thing. And now it's like, okay, were you doing the entrepreneurial thing on the side as you had your full-time job, or did you leave the full-time job and then start one business, two businesses, and three?
So I was an avid side hustler for many, many, many years. So I was building my business on the side, and it worked well because I had a 9 to 5, and then my studio, even still today, is primarily open in the evenings, Monday through Friday, and then
Right.
weekends. So it was
Hmm.
kind of like that balance. Now, I technically had two full time jobs. I had a full time
Yeah.
business and a full time job. And so that is difficult. And at some point, you do have to make a decision if you're really going to do it. You got to jump both feet in. But I did,
Hmm.
take precautions, save a lot of money, and make sure like my insurance and all that stuff was set up right before I actually made the leap.
Yeah.
And I just, I make sure I set myself up for success.
I like that. That is, again, the part of the methodology that you probably advise your other clients to do as well before you make the leap, to really have things set in motion, set aside. The thing that I find that is real interesting, like you said, you've been an entrepreneur since you were about 16. So that's been in you to really want to do. That's just, you went to
Yeah.
school and all that, got a job, but it was like, okay, I'm going to do this on the side. So I would say dreams don't have an expiration date, whatever the dream was. So did you always have that dream? And what was like the dream that you had, and are you still reaching towards it, or did it evolve? I guess you would say as time went
Yeah.
on.
I definitely think there was some evolution because I knew early on that I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I get that from my dad. My dad had a limo company in California.
Oh,
He
okay.
drove around the big stars in the 80s and the
Yeah.
90s. Yeah. So
Oh,
he was the one who kind of said, you're probably not going to want to work for anybody else. And I'm like, not really paying attention at that time. But when I hit 16 and I did that eBay store and I made a lot of money, I was like, oh, well, yeah, I think, yeah, I
Yeah.
made like 16,000 my first month in business.
Oh my
With
God.
Yeah, with the
That
eBay
is
store.
amazing. Oh, yeah, then that would definitely would make me raise my hand and say, "You know what? This is gonna be my life. I gotta figure out this 16,000 in 1 month." At 6 yeah,
At
okay.
16. It
Yeah.
was like this designer handbags,
Mhm.
and vintage handbags. So I was really into fashion as a teen. And so that was what I was like, this is gonna be it. I'm gonna have New York Fashion Week. It was a lot. I had big goals there.
Yes.
But I think it evolved because even from that young age, I was letting people tell me that I wasn't gonna be successful and that I wasn't gonna make it. So my mom was the one who was like, you're going to college. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
of course, at
trying to
that age, I was
protect
like,
you.
well,
Mhm.
well,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then, becoming an adult and having still my mom and now my ex-husband telling me that you just need to have a job. Like, why do you even want to do anything extra? Just go to work and come home. Having that in the back of your ear made it hard. So I feel like I was not able to focus, um, like I would have been able, like I am now.
Mhm.
But the dream was always to, be an entrepreneur, also to be a creator of jobs and employment.
Ah,
That
okay.
is a big goal for me, and like giving back to my community and saying, what would it look like if I could create, 10 jobs?
Mhm.
Um, what would it look like if I could have like a top firm, in the DC metropolitan area? And I'm still working towards the top firm in terms of my coaching business, but I think my
Mhm.
studio is definitely up there, and I have more than 17 employees. So I've been a creator, yes, creator of jobs. So it's kind of like I'm ticking those boxes, but I want to aim higher and continue to give back to the community, continue to support women, and just
Mhm.
continue the mission.
Who are some of the role models then? Because everyone has, like, the role model of, "I could see myself doing that one day." It's like their benchmark of, a entrepreneur or, just a person maybe in business, but who are some of your role models?
Well, Michelle Obama is definitely one. um, uh, Oprah is another person that
Oprah's always on everybody's list. It doesn't matter. It's like
I was just
that
like,
is
no.
she is our go-to, right? She is that person.
Yeah, but I think in terms of just like in the speaking industry, I'm gonna throw Dr. Cheryl Wood out there,
Mhm,
Les
mhm.
Brown, Lisa Nichols, and
And I
yeah,
will
I
say
think
this, the last 3 that you mentioned, they have all been in Speakers Magazine. Les, Cheryl, and Lisa, all
mhm,
3 of them, because there's ones you mentioned, Michelle Obama and that kinda thing, she went to Princeton and all that, but the last 3 didn't go to college.
mhm,
They bootstrapped, they took their raw gift.
yep,
Lisa, again, people were telling her that she couldn't do whatever.
yep,
Cheryl was a legal secretary for many, many years, and then Les, they were trying to put him back a grade all the time. They were like, "Oh," but now, it's Dr. Cheryl Wood and it's
mhm,
Dr. Les Brown, and I don't know if Lisa has her honorary doctorate or not, but that is just real interesting because they do inspire people to like you don't necessarily have to go this particular track in order to be successful, and that's why I like them. Not to say that, it's bad if you go to college, but
yeah,
it's like despite the fact that they didn't, they're at the top of the food chain in terms of speakers.
mhm,
Some of the speakers that I really enjoy, listening to, here's Cheryl right here. Uh, some of the speakers that I really enjoy are people that maybe come from other fields and then they're speaking. So I'm gonna interview Jade Simmons, she was a classical pianist, or Stephanie
mhm,
Mills, she's a great speaker, Kim Coles.
yeah,
So anybody who has a message and has that signature story can really speak and be on stages. It's not Les, Lisa, and even Dr. Cheryl. They're like what I call platform speakers, and that's what they primarily are doing. But I think, you can be like what you are. You're a business coach or business owner, but then you're also speaking on stages. Now, do
yes,
you use speaking as and I always ask this to people, do you use speaking as a tool for marketing, or are you using speaking as its own stream of income by itself,
both,
or it's a combination?
both. I do both.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Um, yeah, speaking definitely, because I was afraid to get on stage. Yes, People like don't believe me. I'm like, you don't understand the
I
anxiety.
mean, you're out here doing pole dancing. What is going? What could be more like really like?
I don't know what it
It should
was.
be
I was like,
easy to pick up a microphone.
that's what everybody says, but it's just something about it. And the more, of course, the more that I did, the more relaxed I became, and the better at it
Mhm.
that I became. But I think too, like in my old full time job, I was briefing like military officials, like generals, flight chiefs, and like executives. And there's just something different, or it hits different when you are talking to people that you hope to inspire one day, with your story, or teach them something that's going to really impact their business in a positive way. So it's like you really want to make sure that what you're saying lands for them to have that aha moment, that clarity, or just a breakthrough of some kind. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I take it really seriously when I get the opportunity to grab the mic and to step on stage. But now it's not bad. Like I'm pretty flexible, and like if things happen, things don't go right, I'm like, we'll just roll with the punches. I've done this a million
Mhm.
times now. Um, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I had terrible anxiety, like stage anxiety, when I first started speaking.
And I think sometimes what you just did about the vulnerability, sometimes when you want to connect with the audience and you can say, "Hey, I've gone through a period of time where I've um, had to lose 60 pounds, or, I went through a divorce," just breaking down the vulnerability of letting people know, hey, I've been in a tight spot before and I've come out.
Mhm.
So that kind of helps as well. Versus like if you are briefing generals and that kind of, you don't have to be vulnerable. You don't have to deliver your
Yeah,
story. You don't have to tell them anything about you. It's just basically it's the job. But when you're a speaker, you do have to bring that story of vulnerability to your audience so they can connect with you. And
right.
it's hard because it's like, the anxiety of it is can be hard at first. But once, like you said, once you practice uh, and have done it a lot of times, it does become easier. I will say this. So a signature story is something that most speakers have to do. They're hired for it. This like, if we heard Lisa, we heard Les, or we heard Cheryl, we know their signature story that they're always putting in. And we don't get tired of it. Even Dennis Kimbrough, whatever, we don't get tired of it. I love the signature story. Dr. Cindy Trim, one of my clients, she has a signature story. So do you practice the signature story, or is it just something that is just in your heart? You did it one time and you change it every time? What is they always say you should practice and practice. Do you practice? Do you videotape yourself? Do you practice in front of the mirror? What is your process, I guess you would say?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do practice my signature story. I always feel like perfect practice makes perfect.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm. And
but
experts do that. Experts
yes,
practice. Yeah. I
and
mean, we look at silver medalists, right? Like,
yeah,
okay, so
yeah,
Simone Biles is definitely she gonna practice still.
yeah. I mean, even though I've done it like so many times now, I videotape myself every single time. Yep.
Mm,
So every time I'm like, can I videotape myself? If they're not videotaping, if the event's not videotaped, I'm like, can I videotape? They're like, sure. I'm like, okay, great, because
mhm,
you want that footage. You want to. I like to see like review back, like, okay, I said this here, and even though it's the same story, it. I also do, I think, feed off of the audience as well.
mhm.
So depending on like what parts of the story they respond to, I might add a little bit more, or go just a little bit deeper. But it's always still the same story. And I think it just gets more and more refined over time. Like the first time I told my signature story is not the same as the way that I tell it now. And I think now it's like 100,000 times better, than it was the very first time. And there's always little refinements, especially depending on who you're talking to, and what you really want the message to be. But the story is always the same.
So did you have your signature story before you wrote your book, or did you create the book and then create the talk? I always tell it authors are speakers and speakers are authors, right? So
Yeah.
hold your book up. Hold your book up.
Here's my book.
Woo! Let me see the spine. The spine. There we go. It's thick. It's thick. Yeah, right, right. So it's not like a pamphlet. It definitely is. And so what is the name of the book?
So the name of the book is The Brand Builder Blueprint: Shattering Barriers in Business and Beyond.
Okay. All right. All right.
Hmm.
I
Yes.
love that cover. I love that cover. That is,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it kind of goes a little bit with your brand, in terms of the erotica, I guess you would say, of the dance and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
so it's the
The red.
sensual side, right? So looking at it immediately, hold it up again. So I know it's for me, it's for women, right? And then
Hmm.
basically I'm talking about build her, not builder, but build her. And then it's a blueprint. So all of those things are part of uh, your background. All the pieces of your life are basically in there in terms of
Yep.
who you're speaking to and who you're talking to, because it talks about that as well. So did
Yep.
the book come first, or the talk come first, or the talk and then the book? Like, I always tell people it's chicken or the egg, or it.
Yeah. So the talk came first. The
Hmm.
talk came first. The book came shortly thereafter,
Yeah.
because I wanted to have a way, because that people connect with me when I'm speaking, but I want to have a way to leave some of my little nuggets with
Yes.
them in the process, like what I like, really truly what I use, my 5-step framework that I use for the brand builder blueprint.
Oh.
And the other piece was the shattering barriers. So that's glass
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
on the book, and just how many times in life that I've had to do that.
To go through
Um,
those
yeah,
shatter those ceilings, or shatter
yeah.
those glass ceilings, or things like that. That is
Yeah.
good. So talk a little bit about Build Her Blueprint. Is it a community? It's a framework, I know, but do you have
Mhm.
a community built around that, or a Facebook group, or
So Facebook group, we have a coaching community.
okay.
It's also the name of my podcast. I'm renaming my podcast to the Brand Builder Blueprint, as well as a TV show that I'm
I love
working
it.
on.
Mhm.
So all of them have that name. The framework itself has 5 part: strategy, storytelling, sales, systems, and scaling. So
I love
that
alliteration. Yeah, I love that.
yes, that's literally what I use to build each of my brands, and what I use to help my clients build their brands.
I love that. I love that. And also too, really, I want speakers to take note that her TV show, her podcast, her Facebook group, her coaching program, and the book. And then obviously her signature talk.
Yes.
So you don't have to, even though we came on and she said, I'm a serial entrepreneur, I have 5 different businesses, it still all goes back to the same blueprint in the book
Mhm.
and all of that. So it's like, that's what you're known for. That's
Yeah,
really what Krystal Vernee is known for. It's like that part. And so I
exactly.
love that. And that really, you have the other businesses as well, but this is kind of like the thing that is like the linchpin that pulls it all together.
Yep, that's
I
right.
love that. I love that.
Yes.
And so people can get the book. Can I get it on Amazon?
So yes, they can get it on Amazon, as well as directly from me,
Good.
krystalvernee.com.
Okay, good. Good.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. And so do you have anything? I know you're in the middle of a challenge right now. Not a challenge, but I guess a seminar. What do we call it? You're doing right now with uh, Sandra Monday.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. So we're doing a couple things. There's a couple of events that I'm in the middle of
okay.
in terms of summit, but there's a challenge that I'm doing where I'm going to be we're taking part of Stephen Covey's the habits,
Yeah.
these 7 habits,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be teaching a workshop around operating in your zone of genius.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And really, one of the main things, I have a client, Michael Wynn, that talks about habits, and then there's James Clear that talks about habits, but Stephen Covey was always talking about, you know, the habits and that kind of thing. But that is really, really a key to success
Mm,
for many people, because most, just with anything, most people aren't disciplined. They have the interest, but they don't have the commitment. So
right.
habits make you really take that interest and really make it a commitment by really making it a muscle that you use all the time. And so when is that? Or they can go and get information at
.com.
krystalvernee.com.
Yes.
Okay, good, good,
That's
good.
what we posted. Yep.
All right. And so you're in the middle of a summit right now that you're doing that. And what are you speaking on? As this, I probably already guessed, but what are you speaking on there?
Evergreen lead generation in your business.
Ah, that's true. That is, That is, if you could give us like maybe a couple of tips of evergreen lead generation. And for those of us who are like, well, what is lead generation? What is she talking about? So just kind of give us a little synopsis about what that means, and then some of the main things that people need to always do when
Hmm.
they are trying to generate leads. Because if you don't have leads, you can't turn them into customers. If you don't have customers, you're out of business. So that's
Right.
one of the main
That's
things.
that is exactly one of the things. It's lead generation is like one of the most foundational parts, I think, of business.
Yeah.
It's right in there with your sales and your marketing as well.
Hmm.
So lead generation or lead acquisition is the process of acquiring or making someone aware of your brand, and
Okay.
then taking them through your sales process and having them to become a customer.
I
Um, so you need that, because if you don't have new eyes on your brand, constantly, eventually your revenue will stop, just like Dr.
hmm
Pam said. So
That's true.
um, that's really key. And some of the things that you can do or that you should be doing when it comes to generating leads is always keeping your finger on the pulse with your audience and with your current clients to determine what their needs are, so that you're constantly, especially for those of us in the online space, you're putting out content that's always relevant
Hmm.
and timely,
Hmm.
meaning that it's not going to go out of style. You're not always focusing on trends and things that are fleeting, because as new people are having the problem that you solve, they're going to be searching. And so one of the things that you want to do is make sure
Hmm.
that you
Hmm.
are findable, at your business, that people can find you to be able to do business with you. So people sometimes balk at the idea of having to create content or be on social media or market their business. It is a necessity. Um, but if you create content that's always relevant to your audience, then you're going to start to build up what's called brand authority. And that will consistently send traffic to whatever you do have out there on the internet and will continue to bring you leads. That's like kind of a very high level um, high level summary of it, but I think those are some of the most important things when it comes to generating leads, and also, of course, is having a process to convert those leads to clients. Oh, we frozen?
I'm added to the stage there. Okay.
There
All
we go.
right. All right. So we were just talking about lead generation. It says if you don't have leads, well, you don't have internet too. That's some of the things that's gonna that'll hurt the business as well. So I apologize for that. I don't know what happened here, but we are kind of like at the end here. But I just want to make sure that people go and get your book, go to Krystal Vernee, that they take part of your challenge that you're doing, the summits, all the things that you're going to be doing in terms of really helping people build their business, build her business. And if they want to get in touch with you to speak or do workshops, I'm sure you do that virtually and on the stage,
Yes.
but you could do either one of those. That's really like the main thing that you do. And I think most people, when they are trying to step in to do something new, they need someone that's kind of like to coach them, to empower them. And I think that's really like your sweet spot. You can read more about Krystal in the issue of September Speakers Magazine. She's right on the homepage. If you go to speakersmagazine.com, it's run across there at the bottom. But is
Yes.
there anything else that you'd like to add before we kind of head out of here?
Just a huge thank you to you, Dr. Pam, and Speakers Magazine, and to everyone that's listening. The one thing that I always say is just do it afraid.
That is so true. You really, really do. Just do it afraid. The main thing, you can always course correct as you go.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I say you could course correct as you go. So thank you so much for joining us today, Krystal at Krystal Vernee. I will talk with you later. Talk to you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Bye bye. So make sure that you go to Krystal Vernee. You can see how that's spelled right there at the bottom. And really watch her, join her email list so that you can understand what we talk about when we talk about lead generation. Because if there's one thing that I know, that success leaves clues. So you want to make sure that you go to her website and just kind of like take a look around, see how she's positioning herself, how she's gathering leads, follow her on social media, all the things. Success leaves clues. So make sure you do that. So with that, I'm Pam Perry. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been great, and I will talk with you soon. God bless.